Hey everyone. Tonight we're diving into the vibrant, sun-dappled world of a fish you probably think you know, the clownfish. You've seen them in aquariums and animated movies, a plucky, adorable orange and white hero hiding in a sea anemone. But trust me, the real-life existence of a clownfish is anything but a heartwarming family adventure. It is a brutal, high-stress gauntlet of social pressure, constant hunger, and the ever-present threat of being eaten, evicted, or even forced to change your own sex just to survive. So as we get started, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy the stories we share here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always amazing to see our global community gathering for these journeys. Now dim the lights, maybe picture the gentle, muffled quiet of the deep reef, and let's dive into tonight's story together. So let's begin. Before you have eyes, before you have fins, before you are anything at all, you are a possibility, a tiny gelatinous orange sphere, one of hundreds just like you, glued to a patch of bare rock, your parents meticulously cleaned. This isn't a cozy nursery, it's an exposed, high-traffic patch of real estate, just under the deadly swaying tentacles of your family's anemone. You feel nothing, but if you could, you'd feel a constant, gentle pressure, a current that never stops. This is your father. He's been here for days, a machine of pure, anxious focus. He never leaves. He hovers over you and your hundreds of siblings, fanning his pectoral fins in a frantic, non-stop rhythm. It's exhausting, mind-numbing work, but without that constant flow of oxygen-rich water, you would simply suffocate in your own shell. He has two jobs: be your personal fan, and be your bouncer. And the club is very popular. Shadows drift overhead constantly. A hungry wrasse, a brazen damselfish, a slinking brittle star from the crevices below. They all see your clutch of eggs, not as a family in waiting, but as a convenient all-you-can-eat buffet. Your father darts out, a flash of furious orange, nipping and chasing and ramming anything that gets too close. He's perpetually outnumbered. He drives one predator off from the left, and another sneaks in from the right, hoping to gulp down a few dozen of your siblings while he's distracted. He doesn't eat much. There's no time. Every second he spends chasing his own meal is a second a predator could wipe out his entire legacy. Your mother, she's the queen of this small empire. She's larger, more dominant, and right now she's busy patrolling the wider territory. This grunt work, this obsessive, exhausting childcare, is beneath her. It falls to him. And so, for about a week, your entire existence depends on a sleep-deprived, starving, and profoundly stressed-out dad, not making a single mistake. And then, after a week of that relentless parental fanning, it's over, not with a gentle nudge, but a violent, synchronized pop. You and your remaining siblings burst from your eggs in a puff of life. For one dizzying second, you see the world your father fought for, the swaying tentacles, the familiar rock, his exhausted, hovering form, and then you are gone. You don't swim away, you are simply taken. A current, the same one he fought against for days, catches you and your hundreds of brothers and whisks you out from under the anemone's protective canopy and into the vast, terrifying blue of the open ocean. His heroic, week-long effort, it was just to get you a ticket to this suicidal raffle. Welcome to the pelagic lottery. You are now a larva. You are tiny, nearly transparent, mostly just two giant black eyes on a wiggling spine. You have no control. You don't swim. You drift. You are plankton. You are a speck of dust in an infinite swirling water column, surrounded by millions of other doomed microscopic creatures. Your entire world, once a single patch of rock, is now the whole, uncaring ocean. Everything wants to eat you, literally everything. The coral polyps you drift past, filter-feeding whales you'll never even see, other fish larvae, jellyfish. You're not a fish anymore. You're soup seasoning. There is no father to protect you now. There's no anemone to hide in. There is only the endless, empty space and the constant, passive threat of being inhaled. Most of your siblings are already gone, consumed within the first few hours. You don't know this, of course. You just feel the cold, the hunger, and the relentless, unstoppable pull of the current, carrying you further and further from the only home you never really knew. For a week, maybe more. This is your existence. A ghost in the current, but then something inside you changes. A switch is flipped. It's a deep, chemical command, an alarm bell ringing in your barely formed brain, telling you that the time for drifting is over. The time for settling has begun. You are no longer just passively surviving. You have to find a home, and you have to do it now. But how? In this endless, featureless expanse of blue, how do you find one single, tiny island of safety? You do it by smell. Your world isn't one of sights. It's a world of tastes and traces in the water. You begin to hunt for a ghost of a scent, a faint chemical whisper that promises reef, life, and most importantly, the specific signature of a host anemone. It's like trying to find your house from miles away, blindfolded, guided only by the faintest whiff of a home-cooked meal. You catch a trace, a flicker of something familiar, hope, or a feeling like it, surges through your tiny body. You begin to swim, really swim, with purpose. But the signal is fuzzy, it's corrupted. The water itself feels wrong, sour, like a radio station drowned in static. The scent of home is there, but it's tangled up with something else, something sharp and confusing that throws your senses into chaos. This is the new reality of the ocean your parents never knew, an ocean where the signposts have been scrambled. You follow a promising trail only for it to lead to a dead patch of coral. You turn away from a powerful scent that might have been your salvation because it was mixed with the confusing static. You are a navigator whose compass is spinning wildly. You have survived the almost impossible odds of the open ocean lottery, only to find the map home is written in disappearing, nonsensical ink. You are lost, you are desperate, and your time is running out. Just as your energy is fading, just as your tiny body is about to give up and dissolve back into the uncaring blue, you catch it, a pure, uncut signal. Through all the sour static of the water, a scent pierces through, so clear and so right, that it jolts you awake. It's home. You don't know how you know, you just do. With the last dregs of your strength, you kick your tail, fighting the current, following that invisible thread of salvation. And then you see it, a living fortress of pale, swaying tentacles rising from the reef. A magnificent sea anemone. It's the most beautiful and terrifying thing you've ever seen. For every other creature on this reef, those tentacles mean instant, paralyzing death. But for you, they mean safety. They mean an end to the drifting. They mean you might actually live. You tumble into its embrace, exhausted, bracing for the searing pain of a million tiny harpoons that you've seen strike other fish. But the pain doesn't come. Your skin, covered in a special layer of mucus you've been developing your whole life, tricks the anemone completely. The poison doesn't touch you. For the first time since that violent birth, you feel a moment of profound, absolute safety. You are untouchable. You are sheltered. You are home. The feeling lasts for about 5 seconds. Because you're not alone. From the deep folds of the anemone, the landlord appears. She's huge, the largest clownfish you've ever seen. A magnificent, brutal queen with cold, appraising eyes that are not happy to see you. Behind her is the male, smaller, more anxious, his movements twitchy and deferential, and then, boiling up from the lower tentacles, come the others, a handful of juveniles, all slightly larger than you, who were, until this very moment, the lowest on the totem pole. They see you not as a new friend, but as a promotion. There's no welcome. There is only an immediate and violent hazing. They nip at your fins. They chase you away from the best feeding spots. They ram you, pushing you toward the most exposed, dangerous edges of the anemone. Every time the large female even looks in your direction, you must perform a strange full-body shudder, a nervous little dance that says, "I'm no threat. I'm worthless. Please don't kill me." Because being driven from this anemone is a death sentence, and they all know it. You survived the vast, empty ocean. You beat the 1,000,000 to 1 odds, and your reward is this: a tiny, crowded, toxic home where you are the most junior, most despised, and most bullied member of a deeply aggressive family. This isn't a haven, it's a prison with a pecking order, and you've just arrived at the absolute bottom. And at the bottom, the rules are simple and brutal. That shuddering little dance you performed upon arrival, the one that screams, "I am nothing." Hops, that isn't a one-time greeting. That is now your full-time job, your entire existence. is built around that convulsive, submissive twitch. Every time the queen swims past, you must perform it. Every time one of the other juveniles asserts its tiny sliver of dominance over you, you must perform it. You don't just quiver when you're scared, you quiver as a way of life. Your every muscle is coiled in a state of permanent apology. It's exhausting. It's a constant low-grade seizure of submission. You spend your days on the outermost, most dangerous fringe of the anemone, facing out into the blue where the predators are, because the prime real estate, deep within the tentacles where it's safest, is reserved for your betters. When a cloud of delicious zooplankton drifts by, the dominant pair eat first, then the other juveniles dart in for their share. You get the scraps. You have to dart further out, exposing yourself for a suicidal half-second, just to snatch a single speck before a bigger fish shoulders you out of the way. Every moment is a negotiation. Can you inch a little closer to the center without being noticed? Can you grab that floating morsel before the next lowest-ranking juvenile decides to make an example of you? The answer is almost always no. You are kept hungry, you are kept on edge, and you are kept weak, because a weak, starving fish is no threat to the hierarchy. Your life isn't about thriving. It's about being just useful enough to not get evicted, and just pathetic enough to not be seen as a rival. It's a tightrope walk over a pit of certain death, and you have to do it while having a seizure. But the constant social anxiety isn't your only source of pain. There's a deeper, more elemental problem, that magical mucus coat that let you tumble into this anemone without being dissolved. It wasn't a permanent gift. It was a temporary pass, a free trial, and now it's starting to wear thin. You feel it as a faint, unnerving tingle when a tentacle brushes your flank, a tiny spark of what should be lethal poison, a reminder that your host is not your friend. It's a landlord, and it is armed to the teeth. So now another agony begins. You have to acclimate, and it's not passive. You have to do it intentionally. You must, very carefully, force yourself to brush against the tentacles. It's a terrifying act of faith. You inch closer, nudging your side against one of the swaying arms just for a second. The sting isn't a single, massive jolt. It's the feeling of 1,000 microscopic white-hot needles digging into your skin. A low-grade, persistent burn, like pressing a raw nerve against a hot plate. You have to keep doing it. Again and again. Every day, it's a bizarre, painful ritual. You dart out, grab a tiny speck of food, and on your way back, you force a little contact, a little more pain, a little more of that sizzling sting. Your body responds to the trauma by producing more of that unique sugar-based slime. You are literally building a shield out of your own reaction to being poisoned. And here's the most exquisitely cruel part of this process. This new, stronger mucus coat you're so painfully building. It's customized, it's tailored specifically to the unique chemical signature of this one, anemone. You are not becoming immune to anemones in general. You are becoming immune to your anemone. The process that keeps you from being killed by your shelter is the very same process that makes it impossible to ever leave. Your body is forging a chemical key that only fits a single lock, and if you're ever driven from this home, that key is useless. You are no longer a fish of the open reef. You are a living, breathing extension of this one. Single, toxic organism. So that burning tingle from the tentacles has become the new background noise of your life. A constant, painful hum that reminds you where you are. But you don't get to just sit and steep in your own misery. You have to work, and your job is terrible. Your whole purpose now, besides quivering apologetically, is to eat, and you do this by plankton picking. This involves facing out into open water, staring into the current, and waiting for microscopic specks of food to drift by. It sounds simple, but your body isn't built for this. With your stocky frame and rounded fins, you were designed for acrobatic twists and turns inside the anemone's maze. You're a master of maneuverability, not a creature of open water endurance. Hovering there is like trying to run on a treadmill that's constantly speeding up. The water isn't still. It's a thick, invisible river that's always trying to rip you away from your home. You have to fight it. Every second you are burning energy, flapping your fins in a constant, desperate battle just to stay in one place. Your muscles ache. You feel the current trying to wrench you from your spot, to pull you out into the blue where you're just another snack waiting to happen. Then you see it, a tiny copod, a floating speck of protein. The dominant pair have already eaten their fill from the rich clouds of plankton that passed moments ago. The other juveniles took their share. This one single speck is for you. To get it, you have to leave the relative safety of the outer tentacles. You coil your body, and then you dart. It's an explosive, wobbly burst of energy, a frantic kick into the void. You snatch the single tiny morsel in your mouth. For that split second, you are completely exposed. Then, a panicked retreat. A desperate scramble back to the stinging embrace of the anemone before a predator realizes you're gone. And then you do it again. And again. And again. Hundreds of times a day. Each trip is a calculation of risk. A tiny, terrifying journey for a reward that is barely worth the effort. This isn't a meal. It's a full day's work for a handful of dust. And every single bite is a gamble with your life. And just when you think you've earned a moment's rest after that exhausting, death-defying dance for a few crumbs, you realize the rent is due because this anemone, this stinging fortress you call home, doesn't protect you for free. You have to work for it. Your first duty is janitor. You are expected to meticulously clean your living, breathing apartment. You have to mouth away patches of algae, pick off parasites and nudge any drifting debris away from the anemone's gaping oral disc. You are tidying the house of a creature that could kill you in a second. The gentle, sizzling brush of its tentacles, a constant reminder of the deal you've made. A healthy host is a safe home. A sick or dying one is your eviction notice, served with a side of homelessness and certain death. So you clean. Then the real alarm sounds. A shadow falls, but it's not a big, brutish grouper. It's something worse. Something delicate, patterned and beautiful. A butterfly fish drifts in, its movements graceful and serene. To you, it's just another fish, but to the anemone, it's a specialized monster, a creature that dines on tentacles. Suddenly, the entire family mobilizes. The queen leads the charge, the male right behind her, and you, the quivering, pathetic newcomer, who spends all day apologizing for your own existence, are expected to join the attack. It's the most bizarre, terrifying moment of your day. You surge forward with the others, a tiny, furious mob of orange. For a few frantic seconds, there is no pecking order. There is only us and them. You dart in, nipping at the butterfly fish's flowing fins, ramming its flank with your pathetic little body. The adrenaline is a shock to your system. You are no longer cowering, you are fighting. And then, as quickly as it began, it's over. The butterfly fish, annoyed, flees. The brief moment of unity evaporates instantly. The queen gives you a dismissive shove as she swims past. The juvenile just above you, in the hierarchy, nips at your tail fin, as if to remind you of your proper place. The battle is won, but your status is firmly reset. This fortress isn't a right, it's a responsibility, and your survival is paid for daily, in sweat, fear, and a willingness to fight for the very thing that stings you all day long. That shove from the queen wasn't an accident. That nip from the other juvenile wasn't just a random act of aggression. It was a perfectly choreographed piece of the social machinery that runs this tiny, toxic kingdom. And at the center of that machine, sitting on a throne of stinging tentacles, is her, the matriarch, the breeding female, the queen. She isn't a ruler who leads with grace. She rules with brute force and psychological warfare. She's the largest fish, and she moves through the anemone like she owns the water itself, which in this small world she does. When she decides to move, everyone else scrambles to get out of her way. The water pressure shifts as she approaches. Her shadow falls over you, and your body involuntarily stiffens, preparing for the shudder you must perform perfectly. Every single time, one slow, half-hearted quiver, and you'll get a punishing ram to your side that sends you spinning. Make the same mistake twice, and you risk being chased out into the blue. Her entire reign is built on this foundation of controlled violence. It's how she keeps the peace. There is no squabbling for food, because she eats first, and everyone knows it. There is no competition for her breeding male, because she has bullied him into a state of permanent anxious devotion, and there is absolutely no question of who is in charge. She reminds you of it 100 times a day with a baleful glare, a territorial charge that stops an inch from your face, or a casual, brutal tail slap to a subordinate who got too comfortable. You live in a state of constant high-alert vigilance, your eyes always tracking her position. You aren't just avoiding predators anymore. You are managing the moods of a tyrant. Her aggression keeps the family alive. True, but it grinds you down. It's a nerve-shredding, ceaseless stress, because you quickly learn that the greatest danger in your life isn't the hungry grouper waiting outside the anemone. It's the monarch ruling from within, and her reign is absolute. Until it isn't. Because the one thing that even a tyrant queen can't bully is physics.
One day, during a chase,
Her aggression gets the better of her. She darts out a little too far, a few fatal inches from the anemone's protective embrace, to ram a fish that got too close. For a split second, she is exposed, and a split second is all it takes. There is no epic battle, just a flash of mottled brown and a cavernous mouth. A patient grouper that had been waiting for exactly this mistake, a concussion in the water, a puff of scales, and she's just gone. The shock is immediate. The entire social order implodes. For a moment there is pure, silent chaos. The center of your universe, the source of all order and all fear, has been violently deleted. But no one is more lost than the breeding male. His entire existence was defined by her. He was her partner, her primary subject, the deputy to her brutal monarch. Now, he hovers in the center of the anemone, frantic and rudderless. Then, something begins to change. A fire is lit deep in his cells, a hormonal command triggered by her absence. His very biology is being rewritten against his will. You see it first in his behavior. The anxious, twitchy deference drains away. He stops cowering and starts patrolling. He begins to bully the other juveniles, almost as if he's practicing for a role he never wanted. He starts to grow, his body painfully stretching, his energy diverted from swimming and breeding into a forced, agonizing transformation. You watch from your lowly position as the fish that was once the number 2 slowly, unnervingly, becomes the new number 1. He is becoming she. Within weeks, the sex change is complete. The former male is now the new dominant female, a bit smaller than her predecessor, but filled with the same aggressive fire. She looks at you now, with new, colder eyes, the eyes of a ruler. Her first act is to select the highest-ranking juvenile to be her new breeding male. A space has opened up. You've moved up a rung. You're no longer the target of everyone's aggression, just most of it, and in this tiny, vicious world, that's the closest thing to a victory you'll ever get. But that small sense of victory is short-lived, because your personal promotion is just a minor ripple from a much larger, more violent tidal wave rocking the anemone's core. The new queen, the fish who was, just weeks ago, the anxious subordinate male, is not settling into her new role. She is forging it in fury. Her transformation wasn't a coronation. It was a detonation, and now she has to deal with the fallout. Her first and most urgent task is to put her new partner in his place. The fish who was just promoted, the former top juvenile who used to bully you without a second thought, is now the breeding male, and he doesn't quite seem to understand the rules yet. He's puffed up with his new status, drifting a little too close to the center, a little too confidently. The queen will not have it. She turns, her movements no longer twitchy but sharp and deliberate, and slams into him. You watch from your new, slightly safer distance as she brutalizes her new mate. She chases him, nipping at his fins, ramming his flank, driving him towards the outer tentacles he thought he'd left behind. It's not a fight to the death. It's a lesson. He tries to push back, confused, but her aggression is absolute. Finally, instinct kicks in. He stops fighting and performs that familiar, convulsive shudder, the same dance of submission you've perfected. He quivers before her, a full-body apology, acknowledging her power. She stops her assault, watches him for a moment with cold eyes, and then turns away. The message has been delivered. The new order is now set in stone, written with this initial act of violence. The queen rules, the male serves her, and everyone else stays out of the way. The fish who tormented you now has his own tyrant to manage, and you get to witness the brutal mechanics of your society from one step removed. It's not comfort, and it's certainly not safety. It's just a better view of the cage. And from that better view, you watch the cage's machinery grind on. The new breeding male, the very same fish who once nipped at your fins and shouldered you away from food, is now a shadow of his former self. The queen has broken him in completely. He follows her, shudders for her, and exists only in her orbit. His brief, arrogant reign as the top juvenile is a distant memory. And then the new queen does what queens do. She finds a clean patch of rock beneath the anemone's skirt and, in a slow, deliberate dance with her new partner, lays a glistening jeweled patch of eggs. And just like that, his slavery begins. His promotion to breeding partner wasn't a reward. It was a life sentence of hard labor. He is now chained to that patch of rock. He hovers obsessively, his fins a constant blurring fan, pushing oxygen over the hundreds of tiny orange spheres. He never stops. He can't. The moment he pauses, they begin to suffocate. You watch as a cloud of plankton drifts by. The queen eats her fill. You and the other juveniles dart out, grabbing what you can. But he doesn't. He stays put, his eyes darting frantically between a passing morsel and the eggs he cannot leave. He grows thin. His vibrant orange seems to dull. His movements, once confident and aggressive, are now jerky with exhaustion and hunger. The bouncer has become the babysitter, and the job is eating him alive. You see predators, the same ones your own father fought off, test the perimeter, and he has to react, a flash of worn-out fury, before immediately rushing back to his post. You see a part of his soul die a little every time he watches you eat. His promotion got him the right to breed, but it cost him the right to eat, and you realize, with a chilling sense of clarity, that this isn't what success looks like. It's just a different, more grueling form of servitude. This grim spectacle, this private, personal hell the breeding male endures, becomes the new normal. You almost get used to seeing his exhaustion, just as you've gotten used to the queen's twitchy aggression, but watching his misery is a luxury you can't afford for long, because you start to notice that the color is wrong. It's not a sudden change. It's a slow, creeping drain. The vibrant, healthy pigment of your host anemone, the deep, rich color that signals its power, is fading. Day by day, it looks more pale, more washed out, as if you're all living inside a photograph that's been left in the sun for too long. The water itself feels different, stagnant, uncomfortably warm. Then you feel it, or rather, you feel the lack of it. That familiar, painful tingle you so agonizingly acclimated yourself to is weakening. When a tentacle brushes against your flank now, the burn is gone. It's been replaced by a limp, clammy touch, a weak and pathetic tickle. The fortress's weapons are being disarmed. A new kind of terror begins to set in, one far worse than the threat of a predator or the wrath of the queen. This isn't a rival you can submit to. This is your entire world getting sick. Your home, your protection, your food source, the very organism you have chemically bonded your body to, is dying, and it's happening in agonizing slow motion, right around you. The queen is more erratic than ever, charging at nothing, her violence useless against an enemy she can't see. The breeding male keeps fanning his eggs, a futile act of hope in a nursery that is slowly becoming a tomb. Your hard-won immunity is for a host that is dissolving into a ghost, and you realize, with a cold dread that sinks deeper than any fear you've known, that there is nowhere else to go. And that cold dread has a face, or, more accurately, several faces. They've always been there, lurking at the edge of your vision. But now, as your fortress weakens, they seem closer, sharper, more patient. You start to see them not as part of the reef's background scenery, but as what they are, your potential executioners, waiting for the walls to fall. There's the grouper. It's not a graceful hunter. It's a hovering boulder of mottled flesh, with dead flat eyes that don't seem to blink. It just hangs there in the water column, a few feet past the anemone's edge, a picture of absolute stillness. It knows it can't rush the tentacles, not yet, but it also knows the sting is fading. It's watching you. It's watching you dart out for food. It's measuring the distance. It's waiting for that one time you lunge a half-inch too far, for that one split second of miscalculation when you're furthest from home. And then there's the moray eel, a nightmare made of muscle and teeth, winding its way through the coral crevices below. You rarely see its whole body, just a snake-like head poking out from a dark hole, its mouth constantly opening and closing, drawing water over its gills in a grotesque, silent pant. It isn't watching the whole anemone, it's just watching the base. It's waiting for one of you to be driven to the bottom during a squabble, to touch the sand for a foolish second. They are a constant silent jury. Every frantic trip you make for a speck of food is a trial. You feel their gaze on your scales, a cold pressure that makes every frantic flap of your fins feel heavy and clumsy. The queen still rules from inside, but you realize the power dynamics are shifting. The greatest threat is no longer the tyrant in your home, but the patient audience waiting for the show to end. So their patient, unblinking eyes are now a permanent part of the landscape, and that constant silent pressure makes the simplest act of your day, staying still, an exercise in pure agony. You know that frantic, wobbly swim you have, the one that lets you twist and turn on a dime inside the anemone's maze. It's a marvel of agility. But out here, in the open water, facing the current, it's a cripplingly inefficient design. Your body wasn't built for this. It wasn't made for endurance. Every beat of your pectoral fins is a desperate, energy-wasting slap against the water. Treading water is tiring for a human. For you, it's like treading water while wearing a suit of armor, with a current actively trying to drag you out to sea. Your muscles scream. A deep, grinding burn starts in your fins and spreads through your entire body, a fire that never goes out. You have to hold your position, fighting that relentless pull, because drifting even a few feet might mean losing your spot in the feeding line. Or worse, drifting into the grouper's strike zone. There is no rest. There is no coasting. There is only the endless, exhausting, full-body clench of resistance, and you feel yourself getting weaker. Your movements, usually so precise, become a little sloppier. Your retreats back to the anemone are a fraction of a second slower, and you just know, that the watchers are noticing. Your exhaustion isn't just a feeling, it's a vulnerability they can see, and it's making them hungrier. You're so fixated on the visible threats, the hulking grouper, the patient eel, that you don't even notice the invasion has already begun. This enemy has no eyes. It doesn't cast a shadow. It arrives not with a rush of water, but as a dusting of white specks on the fins of the juvenile just below the breeding male. At first, you don't understand what you're seeing. It looks like he's been sprinkled with tiny grains of salt. He stops eating. He starts acting strangely, rubbing his body against the rock at the base of the anemone, in a frantic, desperate scrape, as if trying to shed his own skin. His breathing is rapid and shallow. This isn't a wound. This is a sickness, a parasite, marine itch. And in that moment, the single greatest asset of your entire existence, your safe, fortified, exclusive home, becomes your greatest liability. Out on the open reef, a fish might be able to flee a localized disease, but you can't. You are all trapped in here together. A dozen bodies sharing the same small volume of water, breathing the same recycled poison. Every current you create while swimming just stirs the free-swimming stage of the parasite, spreading it further. The next day, another juvenile has the spots. Then the breeding male, already skeletal with exhaustion from fanning the eggs, begins to twitch and scratch. The queen's aggression is useless. She can't chase this enemy away. She can't bully a microscopic infestation. All her power, all her violence, is utterly meaningless. Your fortress has become a petri dish. Your safe house is now an inescapable plague pit. And the walls that kept the monsters out are now keeping this one in. So this is it. This is how the story ends for you. Not with a bang, but a slow, quiet fade inside a dying home, surrounded by the ghosts of your family. Maybe the microscopic invaders in your gills will take you first. Maybe, weakened and slow, you'll finally make that one last clumsy dart for food and meet the patient grouper. Or maybe you'll simply waste away as your world dissolves, your chemical key fitting a lock that no longer exists. The odds were never in your favor, and the house always wins. But before the end comes, just for a moment, let's remember the journey. You weren't just born, you were defended into existence by a starving, exhausted father who fought a war just to give you a ticket to a suicidal lottery. You survived the vast, empty terror of the open ocean, a transparent ghost drifting on a prayer, hunting for the chemical whisper of a home you'd never seen. You found it. You navigated the static of a changing ocean, and threw yourself into the lethal embrace of a predator, armed with nothing but a biological lie smeared on your skin. You survived being poisoned, again and again, just to earn the right to stay. You learnt the brutal arithmetic of this society. You learnt to quake and shudder, to perform your own smallness as a full-time job, You endured the casual cruelty of the hierarchy, living on the scraps, perpetually starved and pushed to the dangerous fringes. You fought for an oppressor, defended a tyrant, and watched as the relentless pressure of this world forced the fish you feared to painfully, biologically, become the very thing it served. You saw the promotion to parenthood for what it was, not a prize but a sentence to a different kind of slavery. You survived it all. You climbed the ladder, one agonizing rung at a time, through sheer desperate tenacity. So the next time you see that flash of defiant orange in an aquarium, or in a film, perhaps you'll see it differently. You won't see a simple, plucky cartoon character. You'll see a political prisoner in a toxic monarchy. You'll see a gladiator who pays for shelter by being stung all day. You'll see a creature whose entire life is a masterpiece of managing stress, navigating violence and bowing to power. That iconic submissive shudder isn't a cute quirk. It's a survival mechanism forged in a world of constant threat, a silent scream of, "Don't kill me, I'm not worth it." You are a clownfish. Your life was never a heartwarming adventure. It was a beautiful, brutal, and short-lived epic. You were born of anxiety, forged in hunger, and lived in fear, but you did live. In a world designed to crush you, you held on, and that frantic, impossible flicker of orange against the vast, indifferent blue, it isn't the color of finding yourself, it's the color of simply refusing against all odds to disappear.